Okay. All right. So we are now, it's September 16th. My name is Bruce Firestone, and I'm here with a group of young, dynamic tech, real estate, entrepreneurs, coaches, I think maybe some teachers here too. And you can see my screen, and we are recording this. So let's just get the slide deck a little bit bigger here. Again, I'm Bruce Firestone. I'm best known as the founder of the Ottawa Centers. I've built, I guess, 1,200 homes, dozens of office buildings and shopping plazas. I don't remember how many subdivisions I've done, but quite a few. And I'm also a real estate broker, so I'm armed and dangerous. And more recently, as I got ready to, sort of enter the latter years of my career, I started doing some real estate investment and business coaching. And I'm sure everybody on the call kind of understands why I might have been inclined to do that. I have been a professor as well, but that's not really why I did it. I did it because I think that the financial planning industry is not serving young people or not so young people very well. I think most of the advice that people are getting from the financial planning industry is terrible. I reached out as I was getting close to the retirement age from the university to 3 of the top financial planners in my area, and I thought their advice was terrible. One of them was going to sell me, a life insurance policy that I think was like $10,000 a month. And anybody who thinks that life insurance is an investment doesn't really know much about investing. So I set myself up as a real estate investment and business coach because I think probably the best way to take care of yourself and your family for 3 generations, which you can see on the screen, is by investing in real estate, building a successful portfolio like Adam is doing, the other people on this call are doing, and also having a personal business for life. And even before COVID-19 hit, I've been doing this now for 7 years. I've coached thousands of people, but one thing Adam asked me to address to the badass group here was, how have things changed due to COVID-19? And some things have obviously radically changed, but some things have not. So what I've got is I've got about 20 minutes of slides to go through. But one of the things I mentioned to Adam is I'm going to send all of you a couple of books I wrote. One of them is called Don't Back Down. It's the story of the founding of the Ottawa Centers, the NHL's Ottawa Centers. It has 4 themes in it. Obviously, it's about the Sens, it's about the National League, about Major League Sports, but it's also about real estate. And the other part of it is a personal story. So you'll get my story. And that's one of the things, probably more relevant to this group, is I really believe in business modeling. I think that is the most fundamental thing. And I've been studying business models, mainly in tech and business, for about 20 plus years. And I taught this at the university level. And then when I became a real estate investment coach 7 or 8 years ago now, I realized that people were not really using business modeling in real estate. And so I have really made that, I think, an art. And you're going to get, I think there's 7 mini case studies here that are real estate and 3 business ones, and you'll all get a copy of that. I hope you'll enjoy it. And it's short, Adam. Just as you know, I write some things that are 300 or 400 pages. This is only 67 pages. So there you go. You'll all get a copy of it. Most of this I think you'll know, but perhaps some of the business models might be new to you. There's no question about it that I think small towns are going to boom during this pandemic and after this pandemic. The immigration from major urban centers is incredible. I mean, it's become a flood. At the height of the pandemic, 40% of the rich dudes in Manhattan left. Either they went to the Hamptons or they went to Florida or they went somewhere else. I have a friend of mine from the National Hockey League days who has a 3-story penthouse overlooking Central Park, so it's pretty expensive, and it's empty, and it has been empty for 6 months. I mean, if you want to get a quart of milk going down 63 floors, during the pandemic is not easy. So I think we're going to see that. This is just an article from Bloomberg. It's called Escape from LA, and I'm not going to go into the details here, but it talks a lot about this immigration. And as a result, all the small towns around Los Angeles, around New York, around Toronto, you name the city, probably Dallas and Houston and many other places are really booming. You're seeing sales at an incredible pace. Um, and there's a few reasons for it. Obviously, fear of getting sick is one of them. But there's been a significant drop in mortgage rates. Again, everybody on this call would know that. But the main driver, other than emigration from major cities, I think, is this last point on the slide here, which is a shortage of inventory. I'm not really sure why the shortage is there, but it's there in almost every major desirable city. People just aren't selling their homes. Maybe they're just not moving. And so there is a definite shortage of inventory. And I don't have to tell you, when demand is higher and inventory is lower, you guys all know what happens. This is just a couple of examples. Recently, might be more relevant to Adam than anybody else on the call because he's a Canadian like I am. But here's a little town called Calabogie Peaks. It's a small town. This is a resort. It's a bit of a ski hill. And they would sell, you know, if you know something about ski hills, the main driver, economic driver, is real estate, not selling tow passes. And they were selling, you know, 7 or 8, maybe 10 homes or townhomes or condos a year. So not very many. It's a tiny little town. In the last 60 days, we sold 32. That is a major change. And I have a number of subdivisions that I'm working on. Here's one, it's a waterfront subdivision. These are quite expensive for our area lots, about $300,000 each. And we blew out 20 $300,000 lots in 60 days. This is a slogan, FEHAJ. You wouldn't have heard of it, I don't suppose. It was coined by an architect who's a client of mine as well. For every home, a job. And here's a riff on it, FEJAF. For every job, a home. And you'll see the implications of this. Even before COVID-19, even before this incredible increase in work from home, this was a thing, and it's becoming a bigger thing now. I wanted to show you this. One of the reasons why we're able to blow out 32 townhouses and condos in Calabogie Peaks is this floor plan here. This is a very important change. I want you guys to really focus on this for a minute. So this is a typical sort of 2-bedroom apartment, but within that 2-bedroom apartment, it has this lock-off suite. So this lock-off suite has its own door to the outside. You can see it here. And you come in here and it's got its own bathroom, its own little micro kitchen, its own little bedroom, its own balcony, etc. And it is kind of a double-loaded condition. So what happened, you know, is I changed the marketing plan for Calabogie Peaks. And what we did was we pitched this both to a young audience, kind of the age group you guys are in, and the older audience, the age group that I'm in, that you could buy a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment or condo or even a townhouse like this, and you have a walk-off suite that you could rent. Right? And it's kind of like give a person a fishing rod, not a fish story, right? And when we did that, young people who maybe are finding some of the major centers too expensive to buy homes, they could see that they could own their own place and they could have some rental income. You could put that on Airbnb, could be a long-term rental, could be a medium-term rental, didn't really matter. It just was a tremendous opportunity. And for people who are older, like me, having some extra income is not the worst thing that ever happened. You know, the average Social Security payment in the United States is about $1,230 a month, and that's hard to live on. And in Canada, the average Canada pension plan payout, I don't want to tell you guys what it is, but it's about $690, and wow, that's really hard to live on. And you got to remember that the Canadian dollar is equivalent to about a peso, right? It's not worth very much. So to live on $690 Canadian dollars a month is really tough. Here's another project. This one's in British Columbia in White Rock, which is a part of the Vancouver area. And this building, a client of mine just sold this for $47 million, pocketing it. And by the way, gentlemen, this is information that I'm providing this group, but I don't want it to be made public. Is that okay, Adam? Just give me the thumbs up if that's okay. Jason, okay? You know, just because some of it is obviously client confidential, and I'm quite happy to share it with you, but not publicly, all right? So this is a building that was pre-sold for $47 million, locking in about a $7.5 million profit for my client. And the key thing to it, this is no surprise to you guys, is the lock-off suites. So this entire building, it's not just a condo or a townhouse or even a single family home, this entire building is made up of these suites. So you can see the green is the big apartment, and the lock-off suite is in blue. And again, you have this circumstance where you can sell these condos to individuals who could live there and earn some income from the lock-off suites. But in this particular case, my client has kind of reinvented the retirement home model. And we stole this idea from the Netherlands. The Dutch have been doing this for a long time. I'm sure everybody has followed what has happened right across Canada, the United States, in fact, around the world with the pandemic. If you have a bunch of old folks living in a retirement residence and this pandemic gets loose in that building, a lot of people are going to die. What the Dutch have done, which I think is a better idea, is they've mixed the generation. So you could have a rich older person, living in this bigger apartment, and a student living here, maybe a personal support worker who can help with the elder care. So what you have is you have a mixing of the generations, so a multi-generational building. And we sold this actually to a retirement residence provider who was in love with the model and was willing to pre-buy the building, locking in, as I said, a $7.5 million profit for my client. All right, so just some more trends that I'm picking up on. Backyard homesteading was big before the pandemic, but it is huge today. If you guys do any backyard growing, if you have a home and you have in a backyard, we do it, my wife and I do it. Every nursery across Canada, the United States is sold out. Everybody has rediscovered, it's an old thing. People always had vegetable gardens in the 20s and 30s, in fact, all the way through to the 50s and 60s, maybe not so much in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but it has been rediscovered. And this is a huge movement across Canada, the United States, and in fact around the world, turning your backyard into a bit of a homestead where you can supply some of your own food, be a bit more independent. And this is one of my clients in Portugal, in a tiny little village in Pinhal. With Zoom, you could coach people all over the world, so it doesn't have to be limited to Canada or the United States. And you can see backyard homes. This is before COVID. Backyard homesteading was a big deal there. And so the next big trend I'm picking up on is a lot more interest in agrihoods. Now, that's kind of an awkward term for an agricultural neighborhood where you'll have townhouses, condos, apartments, homes, whatever, and people will be growing together in their communal backyard. And we're seeing a lot of this. So I'm encouraging you guys to think about that. And one of my clients, when I did a little lecture on agrihoods, asked me, how do I do one? Because, to do a new subdivision is a very time-consuming and expensive process. I'm sure all of you know that. So if you're just a real estate investor, he said, how could I do an agrihood on the cheap? And in fact, there is one in Ottawa where I live, and this is one of the properties that I own. It's 1268 Henry Farm Drive, and it happens to be Henry Farm Drive, but that just happens to be a coincidence. And what we're trying to do, my wife and I are trying to do, is we're putting in offers on virtually all of the houses around us as they come up for sale. And we're going to tear down all the fences. We're going to tear out this pool, and we're going to put an agrihood together in the city as an investor, as opposed to starting from scratch. So I wanted to show you that model. All right. Something else that is really exciting. I mean, COVID is obviously having terrible impacts in many, many areas, but this is also a time of great opportunity, especially when you're young, like all of you guys on this call, or most of you guys on the call. To be young at this time is an extraordinary opportunity. It's also terrible, but it's also an opportunity. One of the things I'm also picking up on is that industrial production is being onshored. It turns out that Canada, the United States, and many other European nations have supply chains that are no longer reliable. We can't rely on China. And there's some other countries I would mention as well. So we're onshoring industrial production. Okay, what does that mean for us guys? It means that the demand for workshops is going up at an incredible rate. This was a model I had been using for 7 years, but all of a sudden the demand for these workshops has just increased you know, not 20% increase, it's doubled or tripled. I myself have a bunch of micro workshops in some buildings that I own, and they were always pretty much always leased up, but now the demand for it, if we have one that's vacant, we'll get 8 to 10 inquiries. And these are people who are doing a tech prototype, operating a lathe. I have a woman who does, you know, funky clothing. I mean, I have an artist who does furniture out of wood pallets. Who knew? So these workshops, by the way, could be in industrial buildings where you divide up a building into small workshops, or it could be a workshop that you build in the backyard of a rental property. And I have a client in Long Beach, California, who owns property close to the port, and that's what they're doing. They're building these workshops in the backyards, and they're having a lot of success with them. Here's an example. This is an 80,000 square foot. Can you guys see it? It's kind of a long, skinny building here. It's 80,000 square feet. It's in Kitchener-Waterloo, which is kind of a techie area in Ontario. And a client of mine had a lot of empty space. And so I told him about this model. And one of the problems that he was having is this is a substandard warehouse. You know, most people want 18 to 24, maybe even 28 foot ceiling heights in their warehouses. Amazon is building fulfillment centers with 60 feet. And I hear Wayfair is going to 90 feet, you know, so they want real big volume. But this guy, his name is Shaddy. Shaddy's building, it only had 11-foot ceiling height, so he just couldn't rent it. And when I looked at it, it's perfectly set up for these micro workshops. And so I'll just go through the slides so we don't run out of time. So he's building these workshops, and as fast as he can not lease them up, I mean, as build them, he can lease them up. And you can see they're ongoing. Because people who need small workshops, they don't need 18 feet, and they certainly don't need 60 feet. So there you go. This is the very first building that we experimented this. This is a building, boys, in the middle of nowhere. So it's about 10 or 15 minutes away from any friggin' house. It's just surrounded by farm fields. It's 20,000 square feet of industrial space. Nobody wanted it. And my clients, I kind of twisted their arm to buy it. And this had exactly the same issue as what Shaddy has in Waterloo. This one has even lower ceiling heights, just 10 feet, 2 inches. Nobody would rent it. However, we divided it up into micro workshops. They bought this building, 20,000 square foot building with a farmhouse on it and 2 coverall buildings. It was advertised at $1.1 million. My clients bought it for $250,000. After they divided it all up into micro workshops, it rented out. They just got their appraisal done earlier this year, came back at $1.9 million. So not bad. All right, so the great opportunity. And I just took these shots actually last week. I went back because I helped them with this, and it's become this wonderful community. You can see these guys are carpenters. These guys are, they make industrial parts for the HVAC industry, and these are just more pictures internally. So there's lots of overhead doors, lots of workshops, lots of good, you know, corridors where you can move stuff around. Here's another example. For those of you who are into the multi-res, this is owned by a client of mine. He's a young architect by the name of Eric. Here's Eric on the roof of his building. I took the picture while he was taking a picture. And Eric owns this building. It's got, I don't know, 8 or 10 residential units in it. And he wanted to, you know, he wasn't doing okay, but his cap rate was maybe 7%, which is not bad, but it's maybe not as good as it could be. So I went and I looked there and I said, what kind of animations can we do with it? Animation is a term I use for adding new revenue streams. And I wasn't sure if there was anything we could do with it. But as we were leaving, I noticed there's this overhead door. I said, Eric, where does that go? And he said, oh, it's just the basement. I said, I want to see the basement. So we went down to the basement, and there was this leprechaun down there, so with a little bit of a pint or a quart of beer and a pot of gold. And as soon as I went into this basement, I said, Eric, we just found the solution to your building. This building has 10-foot ceiling heights. It's made out of steel and concrete. If there's a nuclear war and Russia tries to do anything you know, funky, or China does, we're all going to head to this building. This basement is unbelievable. So he put in, he and his wife own this, Sarah, they put in 13 workshops. They rent them for about $750 a month. It added about $85,000 in gross operating income, about $60,000 in net operating income. At a 5% cap rate, you guys can figure out how much value that you know, improves his building. So it was a real success. All right, let's keep going. This stuff here, the next one here is, you all are going to know this. How do you generate more income from the properties you already own? And this is one of my daughters. I have 5 kids and 3 grandsons, and I'm hoping to have more grandchildren. This is one of my daughters. This is my middle daughter, Miriam. And this is a house that she bought. We helped her a little bit. You know, it was about $120,000 in equity that she needed to buy this. She put in $5,000, and the bank of mom and dad put in the rest of the money. But then she puts her hands on her cute little hips and says, but it's still 50-50, right, Dad? That's girl arithmetic. And I can only say that because the entire audience here is male. But what I liked about this building, and you guys will all recognize this, is it had a walkout condition. Okay, and so this is what the building looked like. And as soon as I went to the backyard with Miriam, I said, Mimi, you're buying this building. Why, Dad? Why this one? And so I'll show you what she did. So what she did was, when I were on the inside where you've got the door and the window, she put in this little 1-bedroom apartment. This is, it didn't look like this when she bought it. It was just a basement. But with a walkout condition, it's pretty powerful. So this is her, that's her living room. This is the kitchen. She couldn't afford new appliances, but still it looks decent. This is it's 1 bedroom. My wife and daughter took the cupboard out of the bedroom into the hallway just because it's a 1-bedroom. You can do that. You know, people don't mind changing if they're on their own in the hallway. It just makes the bedroom bigger. It has a decent shower and bathroom. It has its own laundry, which is important. Now, this is something that Adam knows. I'm huge on this deal. I've been doing this now for 7 or 8 years. Every one of our rental apartments, and my wife and I manage about 352 doors, and every one of them except 2 have tech packages. And we charge our tenants for that. It's a great profit center for us. But are we ever glad we did this? Because what we're finding is that tenants today really have an appreciation for good quality tech. You know, no quiet spots. Your Wi-Fi works everywhere, and we provide everything, and we make a profit on this. And some of our tenants, you know, and I asked them, you know, because our units might be a little bit more expensive, why they rent from us. One of the ladies I talked to who rented one of the units from us, she was a Game of Thrones addict when Game of Thrones was a big thing. And she was moving to another city, and she couldn't miss an episode. As you know, if you have to install tech on your own, you know, it can take a month or 2 to get everything working. In our apartments, you move in, the moment you move in, the large screen TV is there. All these technologies work, and they work well, and we maintain them properly. And then, of course, COVID hit, and it was a huge deal. The other thing that we're doing and we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of the short-term rentals, you know, the Airbnbs, the vacation rental by owner. A lot of them are now pivoting away from the short-term rental to the medium-term rental and the long-term rental. And certainly we're doing that as well. This is my wife, Dawn, and she runs all of our short-term rentals. You know, if she ever runs off with a younger man and leaves me, I would take all of the Airbnb listings that we have and take them down in about a nanosecond because it's way too much work, but she likes doing it. She's a mom and a grandmother, and she likes babying people. Anyway, so this is a garage I wanted to show you guys in terms of making more money from your existing. We actually renovated this garage. And Adam, have you seen this before? Did I ever show you this? So this is an insulated garage door. If you're obviously in California where you have a lot of heat, insulation is important to, you know, for reduce your air conditioning. In Canada and in the northern states, it's cold, right? So this is an insulated garage door, but it still works as a garage door. And you guys can see, I hope you guys can see, it has a man door in it. Can you see that okay, Maddie? And so you can actually enter in. So you come in here, we put in an epoxy resin floor, probably last 20 years. We have a natural gas fireplace here, a full kitchen. Then you go around the corner, which I'll do in a minute, and you'll see there's a bedroom, but we don't put dining rooms in these tiny little suites. We just put in lunch counters. Hardly anybody uses the dining room anymore because they don't have time. And you go around the corner and you'll find a little bedroom, and it's got the tech package, it's got its own laundry, and of course it's got a bathroom. And this was an Airbnb unit where we were making, I don't know, about $2,000 a month, but we switched that as soon as COVID hit to the medium-term rental market, 6 months or longer. And it's furnished, obviously, but instead of making $2,000 or $2,100 a month, we're probably making about $1,400 a month. But of course, it's a lot less work too. So that's, you know, it's a bit of a solve. Something else that I'm picking up on, a client of mine bought a hotel in Florida. And he bought a 52-room hotel for $100,000, guys. Remember I said there's opportunity. You know, unfortunately, on the other hand, on the other side of the coin, there are people who are not doing very well, you know, are suffering financially. But for people who have cash, and this particular client of mine has a lot of cash, and he's a young man, he's your age, in his mid-30s, but he's been very successful. He came from not from the tech business, but from the used car business. So he bought this place, and we were negotiating with this very old couple. I think both of them were in their 80s, and they were losing about $15,000 a month operating this hotel, and they just couldn't sustain it. So they put it on the market for $100,000 US. And the old dude there said, look, I'll give you a seller take back. I just got to get out from under it. And even before I let my client you know, say anything, I said, that's okay. My client will pay you $100,000 and take it off your hand. He doesn't need a seller take back mortgage from you. And probably I shouldn't have said that, but I did. But my client is not going to, you know, repurpose, sorry, he's not going to use this as a hotel. He has no interest. He's going to, because all of these units are micro suites. They've got their little kitchen in there. He's going to repurpose it as medium-term rentals and short-term rentals. A lot less work, you know, committed monthly recurring revenues, tremendous opportunities. And I read recently that 25% of motels and hotels in the United States are going into foreclosure in the next year. So if you're interested in doing something like this, you look for a motel. I prefer the motel, which has the micro suite in it. You can convert it to medium-term rental or long-term rental, less work for you, and the cap rates are ridiculous. All right, so enough of that. This is what you already know as well. If you offered me an office building today or a shopping mall for free, I'd probably tell you no. Here in Ottawa, we have a tech company called Shopify. You may or may not have heard of it. They recently announced they're leaving their headquarters. Everybody's working from home. They just said, we're just going to, you know, abandon the downtown core. So if you gave me an office building, or if anybody offered you an office building, really probably that would be a burden on you, not an asset. So what would I do if I did have an office building or a shopping mall? This shopping mall that I show here is owned by a client of mine. It's about 700,000 square feet. 2/3 of his retail stores are closed and can't pay their rent. That is bad news. So what I would do is, if I owned that shopping plaza or this ugly office building, is I would repurpose it. I would build micro suites in there, studio apartments. I would have some workshops in there. I would have obviously home offices in there. I'd have some, you know, things that are fun to do. I'd have some shopping and some food services, and yeah, some you know, workspaces too. But I would not have a monocultured shopping center or a monocultured office. I would convert that right away. Something else I'm picking up on, I'm sure you are too, is that people have really rediscovered nature. They want a more playful experience. And again, even before COVID came about, in our rental portfolio, we add all kinds of fun things, funky things to our portfolio. You know, outdoor ping pong, bocce, cornhole, if you know that. It's a big NFL tailgating thing. We really believe in that. People who, you know, see your units, your rental units, as some place that they could play and the community can play together. People who play together stay together. Happier tenants stay longer, which is a really important part of reducing tenant churn. This is another thing that maybe you have thought of, but maybe you haven't. Urban glamping is going to be a thing. You know what glamping is, right? Glamorous camping, but urban glamping is going to be a thing. One of my clients is doing it in his backyard. This is his backyard prior to the change. He had a swimming pool here, which is nothing but an energy sucker, and really not anything. He has replaced that. This is him, Jim, here. He was going to replace it with a glamping tent that looks like this, so that people who come to his community, maybe they don't want to stay in a hotel, they want to have a different kind of experience. But I convinced him instead to buy these are called yurtas. It's made by one of my former students, an architecture student by the name of Anissa Zato. And they're good down to -40, by the way. They're insulated and they have wood stoves or propane or natural gas stoves in them. If you're in a warm climate, because they're insulated, they're a little bit cooler than they would otherwise be. But these things are fantastic, and he's doing very well with his backyard glamping tent. For those of you who are not Canadians, which is probably everybody except Adam and me, the snowbird industry, Canadians going to the south, to Arizona and to Palm Desert and to Florida is dead for now, literally dead. You know, it's just a distant memory. And so for you, Adam, I know this for a fact, you can buy some Florida parks where Canadian snowbirds, like all the snowbirds I know, because most of them are my age or older, are selling their places. I mean, you could buy, Adam, I know you're in the mobile home park business. You could buy some of these for very little money right now because there's just no demand for them. So I just thought I'd throw that in there for you. And I'm almost done. Okay, can I go on for another couple of minutes, or if you want, we'll end it now. Is it okay, Adam, if I go on a little bit?
Yeah, it's good with me. I know that a couple of guys had to jump. If anybody else has to step off, feel free just to hop off the call.
I won't be too long, but you did ask me for a kind of a, and I am an old professor, so, yeah. I can lecture for 3 hours. So I won't do that. I'm almost done. So a coaching client of mine at the beginning, actually, of COVID asked me, what would you do with $100,000 today? And my answer, again, was microsuites. This is just a 300 square foot microsuite. It's a pretty typical unit. It's got a bedroom here, bathroom here, bit of an entertainment work area here, and some access to the outside. But here's his actual house. And when I went to visit Ken and Natalie, and I looked at this particular area, it has its own little patio here, or deck, and what's behind that wall is a living room. And it turns out this house has not one, but 2 living rooms. This is almost 330 square feet, perfect for a studio apartment or a microsuite. And so just by putting in about 6 or 8 feet of drywall here and meeting other building code issues, Ken and Natalie could create a microsuite. And what was cool about it, this is just a picture of me and Ken actually taking pictures, is it already had a door to the outside. So what happened was you come out this door and it's already perfectly set up. It has a little bit of a private outdoor space. It has its own ingress and egress. And if I show you the cap rates on it, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It costs about $40,000 to build a microsuite and furnish it, and your cap rate on it is around 23.5%. Most of us don't have real estate that performs at that level. Now, because Ken was able to do most of the work himself, and there wasn't a whole lot of renovations required here, his cap rate is considerably higher, but I didn't put that in here because it's just too high. It's unbelievable. I said earlier in the presentation, small towns are booming, and this is the last thing I will talk about. I'm part of a group that is talking about doing this on a North America-wide basis. It's called Main Street Makeovers. These small towns have these fabulous old buildings empty, or essentially empty. They might have payday loans in them, they might have a girly club in them, they might have a pawn shop in them, but very low level tenants who, and certainly you could approve on it. So I just bought one, and I'm going to show it to you in a second, in a small town that has about 51,000 people in it. Here's me about to do a building inspection, and here is the building. It's 3 stories. It's got an empty retail space here at grade. It's got an old China Gate restaurant here, which is also closed. It has 2,700 square feet on the 2nd floor and 2,700 square feet on the 3rd floor. Interestingly, when we were doing our inspection of the building, it had 6 microsuites up here. And we think those were installed a long time ago. Bathrooms, kitchens, everything's there, because I think the China Gate restaurant had many of its staff living here. So it's perfectly set up for what I want to do. 6 microsuites here, 3 2-bedroom apartments here. And we're going to pivot away from retail. Like if you talk to me about starting a shoe store and competing with Zappos.com or a dress shop, that's not going to work. The internet will put you out of business. What we're going to do instead, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. What we're going to do instead is we'll put professional services in there: a registered massage therapist, a physiotherapy, a medical clinic, a dentist, who knows, but something that's fairly internet proof. And we bought that building for $280,500. Yes.
Wow.
So just so you know, that works out to $24 a square foot. And you cannot build a doghouse for $24 a square foot, right? I mean, I know because I have one. It cost me $40 a square foot. So,
Yeah, well, I know because I live in one.
well, I haven't lived in a doghouse, but my dog lives in a doghouse, and it cost me $600, and it's 18 square feet, so it's about $40 a square foot. so we, people don't know what to do with it, but if you know what you're doing, you can buy these buildings. And so what we're going to do, we have a group active across Canada, the United States. We're going into a lot of small towns, not just me, but this whole group, and we're buying up the main streets. And that's kind of my presentation for today.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, Bruce. That was a lot of incredibly,
Bruce.
a lot of value add for sure. Thanks for doing that. That was great.
Yeah, great.
Well, I'm happy to do it. And just so you know, here's my sales pitch. I am a real estate investment and business coach. I'm not expensive, and I'm really good at it. So you can always reach out to me.
That's great.
All right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That was
I'd be
amazing.
happy to do it. I really like doing it. And it's something that it's more of a calling than anything else right now. And I'm pretty good at it. So Adam, what I'm going to do is I'm going to log off now, let you guys do your thing. But is it okay if I send you, Adam, a couple links to those books I'd like you to circulate to the guys?
Yeah, of course.
And also, I'll give you the link to the YouTube video as well.
Yeah, please do. I'll make sure all the guys have your contact info. And again, Bruce, thanks a lot so much for doing this. That was great.
I was really glad.
Bruce,
Sorry.
Bruce, Hudson just wants to say hi because he feels like his college fund might have just doubled.
Oh my God. I hope so. Tell him that, it's a new day.
That's right.
All right. And how many kids have you got?
Just that one.
All right. Well, you got a ways to go to catch up to me. All right. I'm not gonna. If I end the meeting because I'm the host, I'll end it for all. So I'm gonna stop the recording now,